This footage will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, maybe you should consider checking it out first. This video is going to go into some of the visual effects that were used in the making of Ghost Granny with a Shotgun, whether they are obvious effects like the glow around Ghost Granny or explosions or shotgun blasts, or more subtle effects that were necessary to create a performance or to hide a mistake. This first clip was shot from inside of a car. All my shots from inside the car were too bright when you looked outside the windows, but this one was so bright it was just white. So I wanted to fix that a little bit. So I used a Luma key to pull out the white, and I had some footage of just driving down the road. So in that Luma keyed area, I put that footage in. And as you can see, the windshield wipers and everything was too bright. So I brightened up that footage and made it look like it was still too bright, but you know, it looked, you could at least see something happening outside of the car. This next shot was a VFX shot that was not planned. It was supposed to just show a guy sleeping on the couch as everybody comes walking in. We shot it on a tripod in 4K so I could digitally zoom later and then pan up. But on the couch, all I actually had was some pillows and a sheet thrown over it. So it wasn't moving. And then so when it starts off on that guy, it doesn't really look like a guy. It's like, what are we looking at? Why are we showing this as it pans up? And I was like, well, if I could make him breathe, then maybe people would realize what it's supposed to be. So I masked out the guy on the couch and then used the liquefy tool to create a high point in the breath. So when I had the percentage at 100%, he had a full breath. And when I ran it down to 0, he had exhaled. And then I kind of made him breathe quickly just so you could really see it kind of up and down like that. And then, so it kind of looks like a guy's on the couch breathing now. This next bit just shows some of the details as the Josh character, played by Grant, gets shot by Ghost Granny. When the shotgun pellets hit him, you see a little bit of blood splatter and a little bit of debris from the wall behind him when apparently some of the pellets hit that wall. And then also from Josh, the blood that flies down onto the couch guy, because you see that blood later on the couch guy, and that's how it got there. In this part, the Mitch character had to deal with some of Ghost Granny's shotgun shells, her ghost shotgun shells. So for some of the clips, the actor dealt with a real shotgun shell, and then sometimes he just was faking it and we added in the shotgun shell digitally. Either way, the shotgun shell had to be slightly see-through to have that ghost effect, so I had to either use the background or create a new background to put behind the shell and then sort of distort it and give it that same effect that Ghost Granny has. Here I just used the background footage with his hand in it and then made it slightly distorted where you can see his hand through the bullet, so it looked like the bullet had a little bit of a ghost thickness to it. In this part, after Josh has been shot, the pellets, the buckshot, goes into a ghost form so that when Josh backs up, they're left floating in the air in front of him. And so I made the 3D model of the buckshot, and it I kind of tried to make it where they would line up with the blood spots on his shirt so that when he backs away, it almost looks like they're coming out of the blood holes. And then I just added some of the ghosting effect to the pellets. This is the clip where Ghost Granny was drawing down on Mitch, where it looked like she was just about to shoot him. And we filmed it with both actors on the set, and then I had to take a clean plate and create what would be seen when you look through Ghost Granny. So Ghost Granny had to be the altered footage where you had that clean plate in the background, but Mitch was the original footage that was shot with both actors on the scene, so he wouldn't be see-through. This part was supposed to just be a little bit of humor as Josh and Jenna are running up the stairs and the Karina character gets blown away and goes flying down the hall in front of them, and they turn around and run back. I had the Karina character lay on a green screen and flail around, but then it made more sense just to cut her out and use a still image and then add the motion blur. Then I just had to create a mask to make sure that Karina was covered up by Josh and Jenna as they ran up the stairs. And then there was another mistake. We forgot that Josh had already been shot at this point and did not have blood on his shirt. So I added it digitally. It did not come out that great, but you're not really looking at it, so you don't really notice it. If you really look at it, there's a lot of drift, but the problems with it don't really catch your eye when you just watch it. If you look at the background in this, you'll see streetlights and even headlights from the highway that we were near. But since this house was supposed to be out in the middle of nowhere, I decided to go ahead and erase those lights. It was kind of time consuming. I had to track all of the lights and then cut out little pieces of black to paint over them. It really did help though to make it feel like they were in a more desolate location. This was another Ghost Granny shot, but this time it was outside. And the background behind Granny was kind of boring, so I decided to add in a few more trees, some old dead trees. Some of the trees were created from just an image, but the tree that was closest to Granny was actually a CG tree. I loaded the tree model into Element 3D in After Effects and then applied it into the scene where it kind of shows up behind Granny. The rest of the trees in the background were created from a photo. It was just an image of some kind of creepy dead trees, and so I just sort of manipulated and worked with the image. I inverted it, made a negative of it, and then I just used the curves effect to try to make it match the scene better. And in this clip, I kind of did a similar thing where I added the tree behind Ghost Granny. I added a little bit of a fog effect on top just to kind of, make it seem a little more ominous. And then I used Element 3D again to import the digital tree model. And then I brought in some of the fog effect to just really give the whole clip some atmosphere. I used a levels and curves effect to just kind of get the tree lit the way I wanted it. And then I added a Gaussian blur because I don't like for the model to be too sharp. If it's just got a little bit of a blur, it seems to just blend into the scene a little better. Then I put Ghost Granny back in on top of everything, added her distorted transparency effect, and added all the glows, and everything looked pretty good. This clip was pretty fun to do, where the Evan character gets blown away by Ghost Granny's shotgun. The actor just jumps backwards onto a mattress, and then I cut him out using the masking tool, and used the puppet tool to where I could have a little bit of control of how he moved, just to make it a little more exaggerated, a little more impact when the shotgun shells hit him. Then I added a shadow and some blood, just sort of a splatter from the impact of the shotgun shells. I repositioned him to exaggerate how far back he flies when he gets shot. It's further than he went when he just jumped back onto the mattress. In this shot, Ghost Granny walks in front of the other actor. In the raw footage, since both actors were on the screen, you cannot see the other actor because Granny's in front. But since Granny is see-through, I had to create a background that you could see through Ghost Granny that had to include the other actor. So I sort of just took a couple still frames and a moving shot of his head and just kind of built this background that I could put back there behind Granny that looks okay. So here are the layers that went into making this shot. This is the clip where Ghost Granny flings Mitch up into the air and then shoots him as if she were skeet shooting. One of the layers is the full moon with the light wispy clouds blowing across in front of it. The moon was made from one photo, and then I added a glow effect, and then the clouds were made from just another photo of just clouds. The part with Mitch getting thrown was made in a 3D animator. It was a rough model with some of his clothes sort of stamped on. And then I could just hand animate the positions as I needed to make it look like he was flying through the air. Once it was rendered and then imported back into Animation Master, it looked good enough to at least be funny. For the upstairs bedroom explosion, I had someone hold their hand out the window with a light bulb and flash it so that we'd get some actual lighting on the eave of the house. And then we just layered in all the explosion elements. As you can see on the left side of the video, there's a car there that I kind of wanted to erase. So I just kind of put in another picture of the house. It made it kind of look like that maybe there was a shed there, a shed that was just built in the same style as the house. So the explosion inside the room also had obviously flame elements, and but it also had some of the clutter flying away. And I took a shot of the room with some of that clutter removed, a clean plate, and then I masked out the furniture and the suitcase and the things that I wanted to fly off so that I could actually kind of animate them and make them fly away. You can notice on the floor like the styrofoam cup that stayed and some of the curtains that stayed. But when I added enough camera shake to the explosion, it was fine. In this clip, Ghost Granny walks out carrying some of the innards, as she says, from the guy that just exploded. And we had a really cool little a prop made that was kind of some nondescript gore, but I was afraid that it needed a little bit more to really look like it had some intestines and some real human gore. So I found a gory image that looked like some kind of intestines or something, and I used the mask tool and cut it out. And then I used the puppet tool to hand animate it so it kind of moves, swings around as she's walking and carrying it. And even though I just kind of animated it by hand, it didn't come out too badly. It looked like it was kind of swinging naturally in her hand as she walked. Also, the clip was shot in slow motion, so that probably helped a little bit too. I pretty much used the same process where she throws the guts at them, and since she was actually throwing some real gore, it kind of let me know where on the screen to put those additional guts so that it would fly through the air in a kind of realistic manner. And then when the guts hit the ground, we had the practical guts that were really there that kind of land and roll, and then the digital guts that I added later kind of working together. And I also did kind of the same process where I had the puppet tool and could hand animate it all hitting on the ground and moving a little bit. I also added in a shadow that was similar to the shadow that the other bit of guts had. And after it was all done, it kind of looked like a rubbery bit of guts landing on the ground. This shot was similar to the other shot where Ghost Granny passes in front of an actor. I had to create an arm to pass behind her when I give her a hug. I ended up just cutting out an image of my arm and then putting some distortion effect on it, and then just had it kind of move across at the right time so it looked like my hand was passing behind her. And once my hand comes out on the other side and I start patting her, you just really feel like it was really the arm that was there. And this is the clip where Granny hits the ground and her bloomers are showing. It was a clip that was added because I was going to just end it with her head getting blown off, but then I realized we really needed to see her hit the ground. So since we didn't have access to the location anymore, we shot it at the studio on a green screen, and then I found an image that had the right spot on the floor where she would land, and so I just used that. And I just layered her in, and one really nice thing is when she slid on the mattress, the slide showed up in the shot as if she slid on the wooden floor. This edit really shows the power available now of getting the shot you wanted when you may have not gotten the exact shot you needed in camera. This has a split screen between the two actors, and there's a little artifact here in the hair, and you can barely see as his jacket drifts slightly behind her hair. Since the split screen happens right in her hairline, I could not make that mask very sharp. But what the problem was is he looks up into the air. We hadn't established where Ghost Granny was going to be at this point, so he was doing what he was told to do. But later, after I decided Ghost Granny was going to hit the ground, I needed him to be looking down. So I masked him out and let his performance run at 25% speed. So he's running in slow motion while she's running at full speed. So since he's running in slow motion, his performance never gets to the point that he looks up high into the air. His eyes are down on the ground when he finishes the performance. It's just pretty awesome to have options like that to be able to create the performance that you were looking for. The last thing I want to show here is just a little bit of the effects that went into creating the final credits. It has the long scroll with, of course, the text and then some images that were drawings from the movie. I had an artist named Shelby Nichols do some graphite drawings inspired from the movie, and then I just overlaid them in Photoshop onto a long scroll. Then, after all the drawings and text were applied to the long scroll, I opened it back up in After Effects and just did a slow crawl as it goes by, just to create the final credits. For those of you who actually made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate you watching it. Even though this wasn't a tutorial on how to do these effects specifically, I still wanted to show a basic overview of what went into creating some of these shots.